Fam, what's up? Welcome back to the CEO Pulse podcast, where you get the real, the raw, and the mind of entrepreneurship. We are here with another really cool episode of the Mindset Monday series with my co-host, Justin Thorstad.
Thank you.
Justin. And we have a very special guest, Ted Bland, who is anything but bland.
Thank you.
With us here on the show as well. So welcome to the show, man. Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for having me. It's nice to finally meet you in person. I've been listening to your voice for at least 12 months now. So
thanks, brother. I appreciate the support. Really cool background story here. So Ted is actually been listening to the podcast for a while. He's always commenting and chiming in on stuff. And finally we the opportunity opened up where we could have an episode where we just come in and collaborate.
Yeah.
So,
but the cool thing too is Ted, in one of the interactions, posed a question, and we did a whole episode on that.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Then he asked to be
that.
on the show because you have some valuable content to share with everybody, and I think it's just so relevant with what we're really going to dive into. So thank you for your participation. As Raph says, it's a two-way street.
Yeah.
And so if you want to be on the podcast, you know what to do.
Let us come sit in this seat.
Awesome.
Just not so close.
Come on. You guys were holding hands when you walked in. I mean, what are you doing?
Jesus.
It's a requirement of the brokerage.
Yeah, you're not supposed to tell our secrets.
Yeah, it's part of the culture. Okay, great. I'm going to stop right there.
Thank you.
All right. So getting back into topic, industry disruptions really happen, they only happen so often, right? Like it's not an everyday thing, but when they do happen, the possibility of things just totally getting out of whack, is there, right? It hits us at a mindset level. It hits the pockets. It hits just about, everything that we can, think of if we are really vested in that, in that space, whatever that space is. So in our case, the stuff that we want to talk about is something that's bubbling up right now, which is lawsuits, right? We're talking about the buyer broker compensation and everything that's going on around it. You have really cool stats. You've been studying that for a while, Ted, and you're following it to a T. So picking your brain on that, it's going to be really valuable, I think. And again, this is one of those things that's, sometimes everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yep.
Right. So it's kind of like, that's kind of what's happening right now. Everybody has a plan, but if something as big as the comp structure changes in an industry, not just a single office or a brokerage or whatever, but an industry wide, it's gonna rock a lot of people out of their boats.
100%. And so really the whole premise of this conversation is when disruption happens, what do? Do you see the opportunities and look at that through a lens of excitement of, this gives us an opportunity to be innovative, resourceful, and look for the opportunities before they happen so that you can ride that wave instead of being crushed by it. And really fundamentally, how do you handle change? So I'm going to let you take it away with the
absolutely.
Yeah,
411.
I think let's set the context, right? Give us some background on what's going on right now as far as the lawsuits and what's happening in a couple of different states. We know that once the cup spills in a state, you have ripple effects, and you have smaller markets adopting practices.
Exactly, we're starting to experience. In summer 2023. So not to give too many details or bore viewers too much, but in 2019, two major lawsuits were filed in the industry of residential real estate against the National Association of Realtors, one in Illinois and one in Missouri. And those two lawsuits have been playing out. COVID hit. But smaller mimicking lawsuits popped up around the country that didn't get much attention. And one of those smaller lawsuits was in Massachusetts. Plaintiffs sued their local MLS in an antitrust suit, claiming that they were forced to pay compensation to the buying broker. And all of this was kind of playing behind the scenes until June 30th, just about 45 days ago, when that MLS agreed to a settlement with the plaintiffs. Now, that lawsuit didn't involve the National Association of Realtors, but they agreed to drop buyer-broker compensation as required by the seller, and they also agreed to some monetary damages. Now, this settlement hasn't been approved by a judge. The judge has 120 days, has until Thanksgiving time, actually.
Yeah.
But it sent a big kind of a first warning shot through the industry. Ironic because it's taking place in Massachusetts, and that's where the shot heard around the world was fired during the Revolutionary War. That a consultancy firm named T360, which is the big consultancy firm that NAR hires, that Remax hires, that Keller Williams hires, they penned an open letter to the industry that said, prepare for change. Buyer compensation might not be a standardized practice in the industry moving forward.
Yeah.
And brokers should begin to train agents, and agents should begin educating consumers on what it's like to hire an agent with a buyer-broker agreement. And also that brokerages should begin training and reviewing educational materials, but training listing agents on how to handle a possible world with unrepresented buyers. So that's the big kind of warning shot that was that came out on July 11th, about 2 weeks after that settlement was announced.
So, so what's important about this is, and I know this extensively from me watching all those attorney shows on TV and Netflix. But
you're an expert now.
Yes. No, but it's once it happens, it just kind of opens up the window, right? It's not even a full door yet, but it opens up a window to peek into that space where that regulation just kind of spreads across the land per se, and it changes everything, right? Like for example, right now it's a pretty standardized way to come in and then afford to purchase a property. Why? Because when you're buying a house, you have lender fees, you have a lot of stuff, so your costs are higher than when you're selling the property, right? When it comes to closing costs and that sort of thing. So adding another fee into that already big lump of sum of cash that you have to come in with that's gonna disrupt stuff.
Totally. It affects the affordability, right?
Yeah.
Because now, like an entry buyer, you got to have your closing costs,
Yeah.
your down payment, and now your broker fee.
Yeah.
So a lot of consumers are just going to go directly to the listing agent. But then again, as a listing agent, like how do you mitigate? Like how do you navigate representing somebody without representing them? Right? Because like a buyer comes in, we're required to use Arizona Association Realtor forms, AAR forms, and we cannot use something less than that standard. However, the general public does not have access to those forms, and we're prohibited from giving it to them. So, which means we'd have to draft it. We'd have to do all these things. And there's that thing, if you remember back to real estate school, implied agency, which means your actions are implying representation, but you're not representing them. No. So, and then you get to do double the work for half the pay. Like this is all very weird. And I think what's like funny about it all is the sellers that are the plaintiffs in these lawsuits, class action. They didn't have a problem not paying their agent that helped them buy the house. They just have a problem now having to pay that fee.
Well, then
you know what I mean? Like, wait a minute.
Like it's
you didn't complain then.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's almost like a catch-22, right?
Yeah.
Because they're going to end up buying something else anyways for the most part,
and then they'll have to pay the fee. So it's
they're gonna exactly. So. I don't know. I think it's one of those things that can again just kind of throw things out of whack. I do feel like in the in the space of real estate, unless you're in the investment world where everything is creative, and I don't just mean creative financing, but creative deal structures, and there's a lot of collaboration, and there's so many different ways of making deals happen, right?
Yeah.
But when we move over to traditional stuff, the traditional world, everything has been done in a certain way for so long. That change is not necessarily a bad thing, but something like this, I think, like I don't know, in my head at least it hasn't sunk in yet, right? So my mindset is really not. It doesn't make sense to roll something like this out. For what I can see, I haven't seen the argument to prove it otherwise, right? And it does throw me off. Like it makes me wonder, like how do I. If seeing it from the agent standpoint too, right? Like, when you're putting all this time, all this effort into staying on top of your craft, and then something just comes in and throws a wrench right in the middle of it. How do you stay, centered in that goal? Like,
well, I might be the best and worst person to answer this question, because for me, I love change, and especially when it happens like out of the blue without my consent, and it doesn't matter if that change makes sense or not. It's here.
Yeah.
And this one isn't yet, but it could be. And so when you are mastering your craft and you pay attention to those things, you have a pulse on it, like you start to see these things coming before they're actually taking effect. And that gives you time to reposition and, determine how you're going to tackle this and find the opportunities that are available. Because really what's going to happen, so I kind of hope this does happen, to be honest with you, because it's going to thin the herd of realtors and the part-timers and the weekend warriors, which is fine. However, it just creates more business for the rest of us. Like anytime there's a market crash, what happens to all that equity and that wealth? It doesn't disappear. It just transfers to somebody else. And it transfers to people that saw the shift coming and positioned themselves to take advantage of it. So I'm really excited about it. And I love change because it causes you to get creative, to be resourceful, to innovate, to shake things up. And if external disruptors don't happen, how many people will volunteer to innovate and change up how they conduct their business, right? So being forced to is, I think, a blessing.
I think it's an excellent opportunity, this upcoming potential change, if it does, in fact, come to full fruition. And there's various levels. It could partially go away. It could completely go away. There's a lot that can happen between now and October and the rest of 2023 and into 2024. But those 4 levels, first the mindset, which Justin has expertise in, and also the tactical, how are you going to handle an unrepresented buyer? Something as simple as turning over keys. The legal aspect, Justin talked about that a few minutes ago. How do you not unintentionally create implied agency by providing guidance to somebody that doesn't have representation, if you in fact are a listing agent working with an unrepresented buyer? But the really exciting part is the marketing opportunity, which immediately comes after the mindset. It was just, okay, change is coming, and we not only have to prepare ourselves, but we have to prepare to re-educate the consumer.
Yeah.
And that re-education of the consumer is where some people are going to accelerate and really just drive straight into the ocean before the tidal wave hits, and other people will run and try to hide and outrun the tsunami. But that re-education is a huge marketing opportunity that just about anyone in the industry has, if they choose to do it, if they adopt the proper mindset ahead of time.
Yeah, but I'm afraid to make videos.
Obviously, I'm not.
You know what? One thing that happened in like I do a lot of wholesale stuff, right? So one thing that happened last year was when rates adjusted. I mean, it just kind of threw everything out of whack. We had a bunch of deals on the board, and everything was moving, and then a lot of that just fell through. Like it happened because of the switch. People got cold feet. You name it, right? So many different things happened. Really, what we have to go back to was, instead of freaking out and then just running around like chickens with their heads cut off, is go back to that education piece. And it's, I think a lot of the times it comes down to setting expectations, right? Setting expectations right out of the gate, being somewhat realistic, not being like overly realistic, because we always want to, keep our eyes, future pace it and dream and think big, right? But I think, at times like this is, okay, what do I have? Do I go back to basics? Do I, what is the stuff that we can actually come in and then get a grip on, control, or manage or mitigate, right? In our case, it was going back to that seller conversation where we would tell and show and tell, really walk people through the process of what was going on, because nobody understood. Like changes were hitting the ceilings, and like I'm sorry, the property is just it's not worth what it was worth last month. That sort of thing. So I think it's going to be a similar tone when it comes to how we have that conversation with buyers, right? If things go through,
and the sellers,
but it does go back to that education piece. We're going to have to do something that's going to require that extra mile and that extra effort. And I mean, we see it all the time. People usually don't. Most people don't perform, to that level, right? Yeah. Unless, you're absolutely committed. This is your craft. This is your industry, and you're taking this as a serious thing. It is going to get rid of a lot of the tire kickers and just the people.
Yeah. But even before,
don't commit.
like Ted was saying, that you're reiterating the educational piece and a marketing opportunity that you've been waiting for. Before you get into the tactical piece of it, because for example, the three of us could make the same video, same topic, and deliver it in a different way, and some will resonate with people and some won't, right? So what's that differentiator? And it really is the version of you showing up to the action. And so what I mean by that is, like you said, when the disruption happened, lost some deals, like you can freak out, you can react, or you can remain calm and not give in to that initial impulse to knee-jerk reaction, and you can respond. That's great. However, it's not as powerful as the third phase, which is initiate. Of like, change just happened, and let me take a step back for a minute and get objective. Let me see the situation for what it really is, not through my potentially biased lens of what's happening, and freak out. And so, like, what about initiating before it even happens? You know what I mean? Like, making videos now, educating the public now about what this change could be, the ripple effect it's going to have, what they need to know, setting expectations up front, so that they're better prepared. Because NAR, every year they poll buyers and sellers and have survey, and what they found is that from the time a person has an idea that they want to buy a house to the time they actually close escrow, it's actually a 24-month buying cycle. So it's not like they just get this wild hair of like, hey, let's buy a house, and then tomorrow they're in escrow. Sometimes that could happen, but it's not the norm.
Yeah.
And so how do you initiate to take advantage of the opportunity now before it even happens?
I think a nice part of this nuance is, does this resonate with your core values? Are you starting marketing and educating the consumer because you're obligated to, because you see this tidal wave coming, or are you really excited about it because you have an opportunity to bring value to somebody else out there, and also simultaneously express your unique value proposition? That's where the opportunity really lies, in those who embrace upcoming change. And the best part of all of this is, if these lawsuits come to fruition and shake out and nothing really changes, everyone who did the preparation now is going to be light years ahead of their fellow
100%.
agents.
That's the initiate part, right? Instead of the react or respond to what has already happened, like you see it happening, you take action already. Yeah, it's a powerful state. Your vibration's higher, your articulation's clearer, and the excitement, the enthusiasm comes through in that messaging. Yeah.
Particularly when you want to do it because you're looking to empower the consumer. And if a consumer feels empowered by you, they're more likely to align with you and want to do business with you than somebody who's just, hey, here's the new information. Kind of
it's a transition from being a salesy person to a leader that has a servant mentality.
To an educator,
Yep.
Well, I mean, I think people go to us because, it's let's be realistic, right? It's not that difficult to get a real estate license, but it does take time to get proficient at what we're doing, right? Become the go-to person for somebody takes effort, takes energy, takes commitment, right? And it really, like you said, it really has to align with that type of person that you are. One thing that I want to highlight too is that when it comes to, and this is for sure, it's a space for opportunity. Opportunity doesn't always show up in as a Lambo or as a real sexy thing. It's not like, no, sometimes it shows up as something that's it's confusing as heck, maybe difficult to understand, it's hazy, it's cloudy, but you just know there's something there. That I feel like that can be the tone of it, because right now nobody knows where the pieces are going to land. Even if you go up to the highest levels of regulation and all that stuff, they're still trying to figure shit out. They're all on the same page on that.
They're gaming out every scenario
exactly
as we speak.
Exactly. What we do know is that a rock has already been thrown in the pond, and there's some ripple effects, right? So being aware of that is it's the first thing. We always talk about about introspective awareness, right? But this is more on the nuts and bolts type of thing, but it still lines up right into that mentality that it has. Even though we don't understand the entire thing, it doesn't mean that there's no opportunity there. Okay, like that's when we can come in and actually step up. I mean, I like something keeps coming back. A message that keeps coming back to me, recent months is step up or step out, step up or step out, step up or step out. This is definitely one of those things.
Totally. I mean, that's what I'm all about. Like at Libertas, for example, coaching you up or coaching you out. Like you've got to do one or the other. And the other thing is, like we're already positioning ourselves to put out policy, strategy, like education for the consumer and the realtors and all of that. And it's like, you could initiate these things because, how do I say this? It escaped me. We'll move on. Damn.
So you had one good thought the entire thing.
I know, but you took so long that I lost it.
Should have made that cup of coffee.
It smells burnt. Like it smells like something was overheating.
Yeah. It'll come back. It always does.
I like the point that you just made about digging deep, because often when we are forced to dig deepest, when we are navigating difficult challenges, when we are most confused, and we take a moment to stop and think, that's when our best comes out, and that's when we're able to serve our clients the best. And that's why disruption can be a good thing if it comes to fruition.
Totally. So what I was going to say was that...
Came back?
Yeah, it came back. Is that basically like... what I'm always talking about, on a weekly basis with the mindset coaching, is that most people wait until they're forced to change. Mm-hmm. And then when they're forced to change, maybe it's the smoker of 40 years realizes they have COPD, and if they don't quit, they're going to die. Or anything else, right? The marriage is so bad that you've got to do something or else. And the sad part is that what they realize is that when they're forced to change...
They could have been doing it all along.
They found out they were capable of it the whole time. And so you can wait till things get so bad and suffer and struggle, which is just a choice. It's optional. Or you can see it coming and say, okay, how can I position myself today to take advantage of this to help me thrive? Not just like eke out a living and survive, but really, truly win. Absolutely. And the only way to do that is to serve others.
It is. And I think like you're breaking down the difference between being reactive and being proactive, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like how many times being reactive has really, really, panned out in my experience. I mean, I'm just like, when I'm reactive, I'm usually in survival mode. I'm trying to figure, just kind of, put the pieces together that have already fallen off, and are broken off. And it becomes this state of stress. It becomes this,
it's not powerful.
It's not. You're operating again from survival mode when we're reacting to something that already happened, and that's there. I mean, right now we're seeing like the writing is on the wall, right? Change is coming one way or another. It's either going to be, I don't know. It may look like some disclosures in some states. It may look like regulation in others. Who knows, right? But the fact is that we can still, we have the opportunity to come in and then see it as, as something that's real. It's out there, and be proactive about what we do. We can, educate ourselves through the process. We can start wrapping our head around, okay, what would a potential business model look like?
Oh yeah, because that's going to change.
As an agent, I'm used to making this, and that, and making that work this way. I mean, if this thing clicks, what does that look like for me, right?
Oh yeah,
that's one thing. On the other, the side of that coin is, what does opportunity look like from something like this?
Well, I tell you, one just inherent opportunity is what you just said, is that, like, if people wait until the decision is made and the change is in effect, like the time it takes from that moment until where you figure all that out and you get a new business model and a new position and new service menu of services, like, you're behind while other people are out there taking market share. Yep. Like it's too late. And your state of being when you do that, the reaction, is coming from fear, scarcity. There's not enough. I have a need. That's not powerful. Versus taking measures now, practically pragmatic approach of what does that look like? And you have time to sit with it and evolve it and come up with a shitty rough draft and then refine it. So yeah,
and build your tribe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Build your tribe with people who are also going to run towards this instead of run from it. Because if disruption happens, that's when that tribe becomes even more important than ever.
Yeah, exactly. I liked your analogy too about the tsunami.
Oh, yeah.
Like when there's a tsunami, say, happen, earthquake underground, right? In Japan, like the sailors get in a boat and go out a couple miles into the ocean.
Yep.
Because when the tsunami comes, it's just a whoop. Right? Yep. Like you don't want to be in the harbor when that thing hits because you're toast. Yeah.
Because your boat will your whole life all of your earning will be washed up 1 mile inland. That's where your fishing boat now lies, on the side of a mountain. So,
Yeah, good luck.
yeah.
Well, I mean, again, proactive versus reactive, right? It's if we don't think things through, if we don't take the time, or just create some space to see what this potential thing can look like, what it can break, what it can build. I mean, we're gonna miss a lot.
Yeah, I mean,
of the potential stuff that can give us change.
Yeah, you probably see some brokerages pop up that are super limited in services and really, really cheap. Of like maybe they do showings only, or some slight negotiations or something like that. They'll be an a la carte menu of services, and some will adopt it to where they'll have reduced services all the way up to full services. Like we're going to see all kinds of cool things come out. So I'm excited for that because the industry has been this way for, over 100 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there was a time when we had sub-agents and then got rid of that. It's like the only constant is change. However, the more things change, the more they seem to stay the same. So that's the dichotomy there. And without that, like where's the stimulation to innovate, to evolve? So I think it's fantastic.
Pump your brakes. Break that down. The more things change, the more they seem to stay the same.
Yeah, like I was watching this recording of the new commissioner, Susan Nichols, and Michelle Lind, the AAR legal counsel.
Yeah.
And she was going over kind of a history over the last 100 years of all the changes. But because we've had a lot of them, actually. The buyer advisory is the thing. It used to be caveat emptor, buyer beware, and buyers screwed, you're left to discover and do due diligence on your own, to now we give them a pamphlet of here's all the sources to, you know what I mean? So there's been all kinds of changes, the cure period notice, all these different things that have come into play that are changes. Yet at the end of the day, it's still the same transaction.
Absolutely.
So it's people losing their minds. We're still selling real estate. It's just the process is a little different, but it's the same
the process
transaction.
Of sending that cure notice will be slightly different, but it's not going to go away. It's still going to exist.
Yeah. So you can fight the old model, or you can create a new one that makes the old obsolete.
Makes you wonder about double agency and all that stuff that's going to bubble up.
Well, so as a brokerage, actually, we've already put an X to that. No more dual agency, one licensee. The listing agent cannot represent the buyer. Think about it. Inherently, representation is to protect and promote the best interest of your client.
Yeah.
Yes? Okay, so have you ever heard of a plaintiff and a defendant in court and they have the same attorney? That would be weird.
Yeah.
This is the same situation. You can't play chess against yourself. You know what I mean? So
what more than likely might shake out is those listing agents who are routinely solo listing agents. They don't partner with a team. If there's an influx of unrepresented buyers, they're going to be at a disadvantage unless they partner up with somebody.
Yeah.
Because unless their broker agrees to allow them to do dual agency, and both the buyer and seller agree, so we need 3 parties. You can't just do this on your own. That solo listing agent is actually going to have quite a bit of challenge. In addition to the buying agents who will now have to articulate their value and ask for potential compensation up front if we come to a world that has a lot of unrepresented buyers and a lack of seller-paid commissions.
So here's the part that, I told you so, is so at Libertas anyways, we have the buyer consultation class process. And at the end of that, it is asking for a commitment for exclusive representation and signing that agreement. And 95% of realtors don't use buyer broker agreement. Do you have any realtors in your brokerage that consistently use a buyer broker agreement?
Yeah. I mean, no. Yeah.
Which is so weird to me. So you're going to load somebody up in your car and go show them houses for how long and how many times because you don't know how to support them in making a decision, and you have no guarantee of compensation. That's weird.
We do. So one of the things, I mean, it's rolled into the training, right? Right out of the gate, it's one of the first things that that I tell them. Set them up with searches and all that stuff. Do the stuff that's not really going to take your whole day away, right? Once we get into that space, have that conversation right out. A lot of times, agents don't want to have it because they feel it's too early or it may make things.
They're afraid to be
awkward
rejected.
Yeah, exactly. But at the end of the day, I don't want to drive around people and do spend 4 hours of my time or 5 or whatever that is, where there's going to be there's no compensation happening.
Yeah, you wouldn't take a listing without a listing agreement and spend money on a sign, all that kind of stuff, marketing, and there's no agreement to work
Yeah.
together.
Yeah,
So
but it happens. So it's I know
It does.
I know within the brokerage
But
it'll happen with agents.
there's also a way to articulate to the consumer why it is in their best interest to sign the damn thing,
Yeah.
like sincerely. And it forces you to have a conversation about the do's and don'ts and how this is going to work and so forth. Without having a client sign that, you are like off the hook and having to have that conversation. And what the hell's so scary about it? Because there's only one reason why a buyer wouldn't sign that.
Yeah.
There's only one. Because they don't want to work with just one agent. And so if you know that up front as the agent, of like, hey, no, I want to work with 5 different realtors, and whoever finds me the best deal, like, have a nice day, right?
Yeah.
So, like, there's a strategy. You just got to educate yourself as a realtor and so forth. So, but I'll tell you, the opportunity right now, go get the listings.
Absolutely.
Do it now.
And educate the sellers as
Yeah.
to this possible change that's coming. Had that conversation.
And how you're going to
on
support them.
Saturday. Yes.
Yep.
So let's dig a little bit more into that. What does opportunity look like in this landscape?
So I think that you'll see more of the buyers going directly to the listing agent to buy because they think that they don't have to pay the commission, and they likely won't. But the listing agents that really focus now on increasing their listing inventory and their database of potential sellers, and they figure out ahead of the change what that process is going to look like to handle the flow and the unrepresented buyers and create a team and strategies and processes are just going to dominate if the change occurs.
Yeah.
They're going to have the listings, which means, like, listen, he or she who has the listings is going to inherit the buyers, period.
And that's it's nothing new, right? Like
List to last.
Yeah.
list last.
When I was an agent, like, I hated showing houses. Like, the only buyers I represented my last year selling were my sellers that wanted to buy local.
Yeah.
And it's like, I had so many listings all the time that it's one of the 2 reasons why I even started a team. I didn't want to answer my phone. I didn't want to take the internet leads. I didn't want to go show houses. I was in Europe for 21 days with 17 listings. Didn't answer my phone because I had processes and procedures. You know what I mean? Like, I was totally checked out on vacation. I can't do that if I'm representing buyers.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah. It's just a different ballgame.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of stuff to unwrap here, right? Like, a lot of it is cloudy, like I mentioned earlier. Like, there's a lot of just things that are nobody knows what's going to happen, right? Whether or not it's going to come in hard, it's going to be a soft, rollout, or if it's going to click or not, at the end of the day. What we do know, again, is that there's something happening. What we can do is put ourselves on that reactionary mode. That proactive mode, and really, start prepping for, whatever that may look like. Ask yourself the question, right? Like, if that thing hits me, how am I going to be able to shift my business? How would I have to shift my business to stay on top of, the revenue? If I'm just absolutely, if I'm a buyer's agent, I've been a buyer's agent, the entire time, like, just understand that this is going to be something that's going to hit your wallet, and the way that it performs, your confidence, your mindset, everything that goes, along with the space of being a professional in your
Totally.
your area.
So, my war cry to everybody was, this is the time to double down on yourself. Double down on your education, your training, your skill set, and most importantly, like, your value proposition, as you mentioned, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, how many agents don't even know how to articulate that? What is my value to the consumer? And why is that unique from the masses?
Yeah.
And if this change doesn't happen and you articulate that, like, you're still going to win.
Now you have your marketing all ready to go. Just
Look at
start-
that.
and not
Yeah.
start announcing it to the world.
Yeah.
Even without a change.
Yep.
The nice thing is that change has already come to 2 areas of the country. So those that are proactive and begin to network now, a change is happening in Massachusetts. Change already happened in the last 6 to 12 months in the Northwest. So, realtors in the North that make use of the Northwest MLS, ask them, how's it going? How are you handling these types of situations?
Yeah.
It
Started
didn't go away
experiencing
100%. It's
Yeah.
about 80 to 90% of sellers are still offering seller-based commission to the buying broker. And I personally suspect, Justin may have a different take, but probably there will be a threshold at the luxury market where it'll probably go away completely. And as you work your way down into the types of markets where homes are really marketed to first-time home buyers, those are probably the homes that are going to maintain. And so that'll necessitate a conversation from a listing agent that, hey, you want to get the most sellers for this, or the most buyers for this house, you got to offer a buyer commission. But everyone has an opportunity to begin leveraging their network in 2 different areas of the country right now. And so, of course, we're talking from a perspective of Arizona, and this is, a title state, so rules are slightly different here. But any agent around the country that's listening to this, leverage your network, leverage your friends, leverage your family.
Well, and Arizona is one of the best states to be a realtor in.
It is.
Why? Because the Constitution allows us to draft legal documents without having a license, like, you don't have to be a lawyer.
Without an attorney, yes.
without an
We
attorney.
cannot do it for a fee. That
Correct.
is explicitly.
No, we just can't charge for it.
Yeah.
And that's the number one question I get regularly as an agent. Like, buyer will be like, hey, can I just pay you $250 and you draft this? No, it's actually against the Arizona Constitution, Article 26.
Yeah. So the other thing is, as you know, like, I've already positioned the agents of, like, if you have a buyer broker signed, like, you can still get 3% now, because the state of our current market locally is most listings are not offering 3% co-broke. They're 2.5 or less, like as low as 2. I've seen one like 1%, right? So how do you get that full 3% even though it's not being offered? Well, you cannot without that buyer broker agreement. So, like, there's so many things that agents can do right now to take advantage of what already is, so that if this change comes, they're already ahead of it. And if it doesn't happen, well, they're still going to win.
They're more empowered, and their clients are more empowered.
Yeah. That's brilliant what you said, though, about networking with people in the areas where this change is already taking effect, of, like, how are you repositioning? What's your tactic? What didn't work? They're the ones that be able to tell us because they're experiencing it right now. Like, so instead of guessing game, like, go get it from the source. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Thank you.
It's going to be more important than ever to really keep an open mind, right? Sometimes we want to close off to stuff that we don't understand, and that sounds way too complicated. I'm not gonna ignore it, see if the pain goes away. You know what I mean. So I don't think it is. I don't think it's gonna go anywhere. Change is coming one way or another, I feel. Ripple effect. There's already blood in the water. So once that happens, it's different, counties and states start picking models. We've seen it on the wholesale industry. In the last year, you have states requiring licenses, you have states requiring disclosures, you have some states that have, banning certain areas of it.
There's a new disclosure for a wholesale coming out here in Arizona.
That took effect a while ago.
Yeah. Well, there was one that kicked in September, where you have to disclose that you're a real estate wholesaler, and to the buyer and also to the seller. So there's a lot of stuff, but we have to stay on top of that kind of stuff to stay compliant. Number one, to fulfill that compliance section. But I think more on the personal note side of things is like, okay, we have to stay on top of that stuff to understand what the heck we're doing through the process, right? And really keep an open mind. Why? Because it's coming at you. If you close off, if you shut down to something that can be, or start fighting it, or I don't know, whatever, start just antagonizing it. Let's see, right?
You're in resistance.
If you're going to be in resistance, it's going to be one of those things that's going to hate you anyways. Right. So keep your eyes open, so at least you see when it's coming. And stay aware. Stay aware of the. I think reaching out to whoever is already in alignment of that right now, like you were mentioning earlier. It's a very, very smart thing to do, right? As far as what does the entire package looks like. What is it? What's the challenge really? I don't think we like anybody knows yet. Right?
Not yet,
just getting
but
developed.
They're I'm sure. So is it Massachusetts? That's like they're already experiencing that.
They've agreed to drop their requirement for seller-based compensation. Northwest MLS dropped their requirement within the last 6 to 12 months. So data coming out of Northwest MLS is still early and preliminary. Plus, we're at a period right now in the United States where we're not moving a lot of inventory anyways, so data is already a little bit lower. But you triggered a thought in my mind just a few moments ago when you were talking. We talk a lot about preparation for ourselves in the industry, but I have a sphere of a lot of people that are still waiting to be first-time buyers, a lot of sellers that honestly not going to sell at the luxury point of 1.2 million, 1.4, 2 million. And in order to best assist them, because I don't want to leave them out to hang, I have to prepare them, and that means I need to prepare myself on all of those levels. The mindset, the education, which
it's going to be difficult
marketing.
Conversations coming. There's going to be pushback.
There is, yes.
You know, the idea that you know, people usually blame the first person they see. You know?
Or hear it from.
Yeah, or hear it from, right? Like, don't kill the messenger.
There's going to be a lot of realtors having to deliver difficult messages right now. And that, to Justin's point, might shake a lot of part-timers out of the industry unless they choose to, you know, drive out into the ocean and say, no, I'm going to make this, you know, tidal wave a ripple and just ride it and prepare right now. And understand that, yes, they're going to be killed the first couple of times delivering that message, but the third time you practice it, the fourth time you practice it,
well, it takes,
now you are delivering it.
It takes one thing to understand too, is that it takes a while for the general public to get the memo. Like, it really does.
The prediction is at minimum 90 days.
Yes.
Yeah, easy.
And that's once the changes actually happened.
Yes.
Like, anytime...
Like, it hits NBC worldwide news at 6 o'clock or whatever.
Yeah, and so, like, when the interest rate shot up to 7%, like, it was silent for a while.
Yeah.
Because everyone was like, oh my God, 7%, which, historically speaking, is pretty damn low. We've just been spoiled with artificially low interest rates for so long. But the thing about it is, after about 90 days, the buyer's like, okay, well, I guess this is what it is. This is the environment. And if I want to buy, that's what it's going to take.
It's the new normal.
Yeah, but if you think about it, the people that bought at 7% interest rate were actually pretty smart, because once, you know, unemployment, inflation, all that kind of comes down, so will interest rates. And then, like, because we had almost 8,000 closings last month in the MLS, not even off-market type stuff. It wasn't including that. So that's potentially $16,000 commissions, 16,000 commissions that were paid, 8,000 transactions, right? So, like, how much of that were you able to capitalize on, right? And so there's just so much that's still available. Like, if you have that mindset and that lens in which you're viewing the reality as abundant, like, again, $16,000 paydays, how many do you need? And so there's always been an abundance, and there always will be, if you're able to see it.
It's not going to go away with the disruption. It'll just be reprioritized.
No, we just got to...
Well, because when those rates come down, that demand is going to skyrocket.
Oh, yeah.
And there already is a shortage of inventory. So wait, demand's going to increase significantly with already low supply. What's going to happen to prices? Upward pressure. And then now, so you got a 3.5, but the house that was 450 is now 700. Like, we could turn Phoenix into the next LA, and that would be sad. But it will happen if demand increases because rates go down. So taking advantage of what is now, and then when the rates go down, refinance, like, commit, go through with it, and, you know.
Date the rate.
Marry the house. Yeah.
Awesome. Good combo. Good conversation. This was I think it's needed, right? Because I've had the conversation or the question come up multiple times, you know, from agents and people who are just, you know, asking in general. Normally we have, you know, we go heavy into the mindset. I think on this one it's a little bit of nuts and bolts, some stuff that's relevant right now, that's happening right now, but it lines right up into the fact that we have to adjust as entrepreneurs on a daily, right? It's the nature of the beast. We don't know when we're going to get hit with something that disrupts the flow. It can be something small that's, you know, business, you know, centric, right? But it can also be something big that it, you know, can be industry based.
Yeah.
And, you know, at the end of the day, like, it's really up to us to say, oh, this is going to be a problem. It's going to stop me in my tracks. Or, you know, come in and then, you know, think about it, you know, see it with an open mind and really lead with that, you know, problem solving mentality, which, you know, we need to have, regardless of what the situation is.
Yeah. And we haven't really used it in a while because we haven't had to.
Yeah. It's been a minute.
Yeah. So.
Awesome. So, with that being said, Justin, where can somebody get a hold of you?
Yeah, JustinThorstad.com, social media, YouTube, and my phone number, 602-348-8534.
And our very, very special guest, Ted Bland.
Thank you.
Doesn't he make it awkward?
He does.
That was a really that was really good. I'm sorry.
It was better than what I got, man.
I was like, a mix between a Mexican song and Mario Brothers.
Yeah,
It's
lovely.
like
It was a nice merge.
yes.
Yeah.
So if somebody wants to reach out, maybe pick your brain on. I mean, you're
Absolutely.
very savvy. You do a lot
thank
of, you look closely into all the little details and stuff like that. So
Thank
if somebody wants to reach out, where's the best place to find you?
Call me 480-612-1919. That's 480-612-1919. And I have a YouTube channel at Ted Bland Realtor.
Oh, speaking of which, sir,
Yes.
what happened to your, new line of videos that you were making that I thought were so incredible?
Well, thank you.
They were called-
they were funny and self-deprecating. However, there's also a time and place for that, and they are not. They have not disappeared. They are just much like Christmas decorations. They've been put away in a closet temporarily.
That's so sad because I think what you had was brilliant and needed to lighten the landscape.
I appreciate that.
And the people who it bothered weren't your people anyways.
Well, that is very true. I think also there's an opportunity for refinement, and right now the calling in summer 2023, entering autumn, is obviously this topic. But that has not gone away, and money has been invested into that.
Lovely.
And you and I have talked. So yes, it's a serious topic today, but no one likes going into their job 9 to 5 and just drudging away and taking everything seriously. You have to, let off some steam sometime and joke around.
Yeah.
And so we'll get back to that.
And I appreciate your courage to even get it started.
Well, thank you.
We'll show you later.
It was a bet.
It's awesome. I think 95% is taking it lighthearted on our end. Otherwise, we'd go crazy, man.
Oh,
like,
God.
come on, let's
You
be
gotta have an
realistic.
outlet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there has to be, there's responsibility and tenacity and everything, but you gotta have some lighthearted humor, because otherwise
Listen.
everything gets too dark.
If you're not having fun,
Quick.
you misread the instructions.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. With that being said, you can find me on social media, Rafael Cortez CEO, YouTube. Check out our YouTube channel as well, Rafael Cortez CEO, the Mindset Monday podcast. This is what we're on right now. And yeah, it's a two-way street. Like we mentioned earlier. If you have any questions, any topics that you want to talk about, bring up. It's usually today we had a great guest on the show. It's usually me and Justin just kind of breaking stuff down and bringing you guys the real and the raw of one, entrepreneurship, but mindset. And then I like the fact that it's a very organic conversation. We all get vulnerable. We all start talking about the real stuff that's happening. There's no no posing, no no
Script.
framing, no nothing. It's just like it is what it is. All right. So if you want to take part of that conversation, chime in, let us know your thoughts. And with that, I'm going to call it a day.
Sounds good, man.
Awesome.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Love you all. Stay focused. You got this.